So today we're going to learn about flirt poles. First, we're going to talk about like the predation sequence. So these natural instincts in our dog's body to exercise and play. And of course, we're going to talk about safe outlets to provide enrichment to our dog that is just naturally instinctive to them and how that would be beneficial to their overall wellness. We're also going to talk about how to introduce a flirt pole. Maybe your dog is not naturally inclined to do this and how you can maybe train it. And then we're also going to talk about if your dog gets really intense about flirt poles. In some dog training worlds, they talk about overarousal. I think it's a made-up term, and we're going to talk about how we can complete the whole predation sequence to help dogs settle after playing. This topic really interests you. I want to kind of point you towards some great things that are coming out in the treats community. One being the Resource Guarding 101 webinar that's going to be coming out on April 30th. If you're looking at this after April 30th, we're going to have that in the Cheese Club community as a resource. Along with that, we're going to be doing That So Fetch class series, which will be starting on May 7th. And that's going to be reviewing tug of war, take it, leave it, drop it. And we're also going to be doing some fetch work where we're not just doing like the whole fetch sequence, but also teaching them to potentially put that item into a box or into your hand. Along with that, we're going to be launching our Reel and Leash Reactivity Cohort program on May 7th. And that program really dovetails well into all type of leash reactivity, whether lunging, barking at various things like from squirrels to skateboarders to dogs and to people. And we dive into really the function of that, but tapping into your dog's natural predation sequence and their need for social interaction with things is one of the core reasons why we have leash reactivity. And I think that would be a really useful resource for many of you who are interested in this type of stuff. So let's dive into it. We're going to talk about the predation sequence. And the predation sequence starts with searching, noticing, orienting, sniffing, finding that prey source. The next part of it is stalking. So closing that gap so then they can move to the next part of the predation sequence, which is rushing and chasing. And that's what we're going to be really focusing on today. And then after that comes grabbing, shaking, biting. And some of your flirt poles might not be best suited for this, but we're going to go into different kind of flirt pole options so they can also grab and shake and bite the item. After that is dissection. So that's like pulling things apart and chewing. And then there's actually eating and consuming the item. We need to remember play is really dogs rehearsing the predation sequence. And it's common belief on the internet that if you give your dog these outlets to rehearse these behaviors, they're going to get really good at it and they could become more likely to tap into this predation sequence in real life. And really, it has the opposite effect. We're giving them safe outlets to practice something that is super natural to them. And if we don't give them this outlet, it's like we're taking away their ability to breathe, okay? So we need to be able to provide our dog safe outlets to do things that are just completely natural to their instincts. I have some great blogs down below linked if you want to check them out. And so how does flirt poles play into this? Flirt poles really provide the outlet of 1 to 4 of the predation sequence. So that's searching, the stalking, the rushing and chasing, and then the grabbing and biting. And later we'll talk about how we can introduce dissection and eating to help bring our dog down to settle after doing these type of exercises. So how can we introduce a flirt pole? Some dogs might just be really naturally inclined to do this. So you might not actually need to train this behavior, but some dogs you might introduce a flirt pole and they might be like, what the F is this?
The next part of this video is part of the editor's cut. To gain access, head over to the Treats community and become a Kibble Crew member for free.
Now, what if you don't have a flirt pole? Okay, you can make one. I just had a toy of peanuts. I naturally picked the squirrel. And then I just had some present ribbon upstairs, so I just tethered that to it. If you have a sturdy dog, you might need something a little bit more, like a rope or something like that, but you can easily make a flirt pole yourself. If your dog really likes a flirt pole, I definitely suggest investing in a proper flirt pole for dogs. And you'll see here with Clementine, I have like the proper flirt pole because she's very into it. And then it gives them the opportunity also to grab and shake. And there's a flexible material on it as well. The rope is flexible. So you really don't get the brunt of their pulling too much. So it can be really great for that. Now, let's talk about if your dog gets really amped up about this. And Clementine was one of those. She had a really hard time settling after doing this exercise. And this is common belief in the dog training world. You might hear a lot of people using the term a dog being over-aroused and how that's like a negative thing. I don't really buy into this belief very much. There's not like really like evidentiary support in it. But what we're seeing is kind of this phenomenon where dogs are doing those predation sequence kind of play rehearsal behaviors and they're not able to kind of like tap out of it. They're like stuck in the zone. And we need to lend them to the dissection and eating part of the predation to kind of bring them down and calm their nervous system. And we use just the same things that we use in real life for our dogs who are fearful and things like that. Things that are really calming, what I call reading material. So things like Kongs, treat searches, and chews can be really good. So if you're going to be setting up to do this exercise with your dog and they can get really amped up, over aroused, right? I want you to ensure that you have something for after to help, you know, kind of bring them down. Some dogs really need this bridge from really high intensity activities to then settling. If you guys have any questions, definitely comment below. I'm happy to kind of navigate the flirt pole training with you, and happy hunting. I don't know what else to say.